Welcome to Module 2 of Sage 50 Mastery, the definitive guide for aspiring accountants and financial professionals. In this module, we will dive deeper into setting up and customizing your company in Sage 50. As someone with over 10 years of experience teaching accounting software to professionals across the globe, my goal remains to make this learning journey as practical, clear, and accessible as possible. Today's lesson will focus on configuring company settings, adjusting preference, and managing data imports to help you leverage Sage 50 effectively in the real world. But before we get started, let's look at the objective for today's lesson. Objective 1. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to configure company settings and preference to tailor Sage 50 according to their business needs. Objective 2. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to import and manage existing financial data, applying practical steps and examples that simulate real-world business scenarios. Objective 3. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to utilize provided financial data to practice the application of Sage 50 features, enhancing understanding through hands-on experience. So, to get started with today's class, we will begin with a practical case study. It's a document which contains practice materials, and I would want you to take a closer look at them, as you are also expected to practice while you take this lesson. To provide the most effective learning experience, I have prepared this comprehensive case study document that will be your working material for this lesson. The case study for today's lesson is looking at the consulting sector. So maybe you have worked in a consulting company, or you're interested in venturing into consultancy. Then today's lesson would be of great benefit to you, as we will explore together how to use Sage 50 within the context of the lesson we have, which is on company setup and preference. So we'll be creating a new company profile. For creating a new company profile task, it has already been done during the previous lesson, so we won't take that again. Then also for the lesson that has to do with configuring company settings and preference, we'll do that very one. Okay. Then importing and managing existing data, we will also take care of that task in today's lesson. So the key elements included in the case study will be the initial company setup. And like I said, the company details already have been created in previous lesson under the name Miramore. I think you remember now. Then for configuring company settings and preference, we will look at detailed instructions on setting up company defaults, such as fiscal year, accounting method, and any other settings. So look at this. We'll also look into guidance on setting preferences for sales, purchase, inventory management, and even payroll. Then we'll talk about importing and managing existing data, which is the financial data. So I will take you on importing data into Sage 50. So to get started, let's look at the practice data and as well as the case study I talked about. All right, so right here is the scenario we'll be looking at in the course of today's lesson, and it's on setting up and managing financial transactions in Sage 50, a scenario for Miramore Consulting. Let's take the company background. The company is Miramore Consulting. So I'll read it. Miramore Consulting is a leading consulting firm based in Nigeria, offering specialized services in data analysis, business intelligence, and strategic consulting. The company serves as a diverse client base across various sectors, including finance, healthcare, education, and government. Miramore Consulting has recently adopted Sage 50 to streamline its accounting processes, enhance financial management, and ensure compliance with international financial reporting standards. Case study scenario. Number 1, company setup and preference. Objective: to set up Miramore Consulting financial environment in Sage 50. Configure necessary company settings and import historical financial data to ensure accurate tracking and reporting of business transactions. For number 2, creating and configuring a new company file. You have already created a new company profile for Miramore Consulting in Sage 50. The next steps involve setting up preferences that align with the company's operational needs, such as fiscal year settings, accounting methods, and currency preferences. Key configurations include fiscal year. Miramore Consulting's fiscal year runs from January to December. Accounting method: the company uses the accrual basis of accounting. Currency: transactions are primarily in Nigerian Naira, with occasional dealings in USD for international clients. 3, importing and migrating existing data. To provide a practical understanding of Sage 50, you will import existing financial data into the system. This data will include a chart of accounts, customer and vendor list, inventory items, and historical transactions. For this lesson, the financial data provided will be used to simulate real-world accounting activities within Sage 50. So, like I said, we will now go to explore the financial data for import, and they are all here. You can see financial data for import. First, the chart of accounts. The chart of accounts is designed to meet the needs of the firm and includes accounts relevant to Miramore Consulting's operations. And these are all the accounts: cash accounts, income accounts, expense accounts, asset accounts, liability accounts, equity accounts. Then the second file is that of the customer and vendor list, which contains customers, vendors, inventory items, historical transactions where you have sales invoice, purchase invoice, receipts, and payments. So before we move further, let's now go and have a view of the practice data. So here we have the practice data. And as we are told, it contains the chart of accounts table, customers list, purchase invoice, receipt and payment, sales invoice. Those take care of the historical transactions, and the vendor list. So let's view them. So we'll proceed with the lesson. So I'll open every one of them. So here we have the customers list. And the customers list contains all information for Miramore customers based on the case study we're exploring. Remember, it's to simulate real world accounting. So we have a column for customer ID, a column for customer name. We have a column for location, and also a column for opening balance. We are told to import this into Sage 50. So you'll be learning how to import historical data, existing data into Sage 50 accounting software. So while this is done, let's also take a look at one of the historical documents here, which have to do with the purchase invoice. So this is records for the purchase invoice, which will also be importing over into Sage 50. So you can see the date column, the invoice number, vendor name column, description, amount. So take note, date, invoice number, vendor name, description, amount, which is in USD. So we'll be importing this as well. These are purchase transactions. Purchase transactions. So let's also take note. Let's take a look at the receipts and payments. So what we have here is the receipt and payment historical transactions. And it also contains information for dates, information for transaction type, clients, / vendor name, description, and amount. So right here, you have your receipt for your customers' sales transactions, and you also have for payments, historical data that have already existed for the business. Take, for instance, if you are in a company and you are at, let's say, the month of May, whereas they started their books from January, and they are saying, please, we want you to move or migrate our existing records data into Sage 50 from January. That's the scenario we are looking at. So assuming these have already occurred, okay, this is something that have already happened, what we call descriptive analysis. It's already in the past, okay? So we now have to migrate it over into Sage 50. So while this is done, we'll also take a look at the chart of accounts table, like I made mention of. Okay, so you can see right here the chart of accounts table. So this is for the chart of account table. So we'll also migrate this data into Sage 50. Okay, so it's also one you have to take note of. Your cash accounts. Now you must know that Sage 50 makes use of account codes, what we call account numbers. So when you're seeing 1.1, they are all there to give you an organized structure. In this same module 2, lesson 1, we'll talk about in the sub-lesson, the chart of accounts. So over there, you'll get more understanding of what the chart of accounts is all about. But till then, let's continue what we are looking at. The account descriptions I've also provided for you to understand what each does. For example, account name, equipment, description, cost of office equipment, account name, retained earnings, earnings retained in a business, account name, drawings, amounts withdrawn by the owner. So you just have to take note of all this since they are all existing accounts that needs to be migrated or imported or moved into Sage 50. So lastly, I believe you have seen it up, down till utilities. So before we move further, let's also go and take a view of the sales invoice. It's also a historical transaction that needs to be studied. So when we come here also, find out it also contains columns for dates, invoice number, client's name, description, amounts, also part of it. So all these are sales transactions made to your invoice, using invoice to make those transactions to your customers. So all these are the customers of this business assets, what we are being given now to practice with. So lastly, we are yet to look at the vendors list. So let's look at the list of those suppliers and vendors provided also based on historical data. So here they are. So you can see that some of them have some balances. So this balance is what we call our accounts payable balance for your vendors. And the normal procedure is when you are setting up your vendors in Sage 50, you have to set them up and also establish what we call the accounts payable balance, which simply means you are owing, the business is owing those vendors who are the suppliers, to service providers. So same is applicable to your customers list. When you look closely in this customer list, you find out that we also have that column for opening balance. So that means the customers who have these balances are those who are owning this business. Miracle Consulting is owning this Miramore business. XYZ Limited is owning. South Africa Insight is owning. Mid East Ventures is owning. So when you are setting up your customers, you also have to establish their account receivable balance, because this becomes the account receivable balance. So we'll explore this more when we look into setting up your customers, setting up your vendors. But for now, we're assuming that we have been told that these are existing records. So what you have to do is to import this, migrate this data into Sage 50, rather than wasting time doing it one by one, one after the other. It's going to take a lot of your time. I've seen accountants who, spends a lot of time trying to put them one after the other. That's a huge time you're wasting, whereas these things can actually be imported into Sage 50 directly. So this is a good lesson for you to take note of. So when you venture into an organization that has, complex records, large files, it will be easier for you to import or migrate this data into Sage 50 in less time. So let's now go to Sage 50 to then explore how we will do this from a practical perspective. And like I told us, whatever we have here as the data is just what I could call sample financial data file. Okay, so it includes all what we have seen: the transactional data, the historical financial data, the customer and vendor list. Okay, and I did not provide that of the inventory here, but I will also want us to also look into that now. Let's also open that of the inventory list, so gain more concrete understanding. All right, so I also want us to also take a look on the customers list, which we have done. Okay, so please ensure to go through it. Go through that of the chart of accounts, go through the purchase invoice, the receipt and payment, sales invoice, and vendors list. And I also talked about the inventory list. So let's take a look of that. So right here, we have the inventory list coming up. Okay, so you can see the list of inventories, existing inventory data. So there are some companies you work in. You find that they have existing records of inventory. So what they expect you to do is for you to migrate this data into Sage 50 for them. So where you have thousands or hundreds of inventory, maybe a manufacturing company, a retail company, you don't need to start entering them one after the other. Although there is a lesson in this course that takes care of working with inventory. And by that, we are talking about inventory management, inventory setup, and all of that. But at this very lesson, our attention is geared towards migrating data, existing data. So now that we have gotten an idea of the data we want to move into, let's now see how we can do this. So that takes us into the data import guide. And I will give us a step-by-step instruction on how to import various data types Okay, now when I talk about data type for Sage 50, um, receives the type of data file we call CSV. CSV stands for the comma separated values. So whatever you're doing here, you must ensure that all your files are saved in a CSV format. So if I come and right click on chart of accounts table, and I click on properties, for example, you find out that you can see Microsoft Excel, comma separated values. That's the type of file. So ensure when you're saving your file, make sure you save it in CSV format. This is how we save. So let's say I've opened this very file and I want to import it. I'll first of all come to my file, click on Save As, select a folder where I would definitely want to save this. Okay, maybe I want to save it in a folder like the OneDrive for Business, depending on where I want to save this. Or let's go to another folder. For example, let's say we want to save this on our download folder. So what I'm saying is this, where you have save as type, select CSV from the list, comma delimited, can see it. Okay, select it, not that of an Excel workbook to make it fast. Select, change it to CSV. Once you've done that, come down, click on save. That's how to save. So do that for all your documents you want to import. Okay. Now, once you've done that, we'll now go to Sage 50. Now, when we get to the data import guide, we'll still have to come back here because we have to, or one of the things we do in practice is to manage the imported data. And managing the imported data talks about what is known as data cleaning, because you need to clean the data, you need to organize it, you need to verify the accuracy of the imported data. And this is important. There are certain common challenges, and I would want you to see how you can actually address them. Okay, so how do you clean? How do you organize? How do you verify the accuracy of your imported data? Let's now look into this so understand how these actually work. And like I said, these are things we do when we are using Sage 50 in real life. Okay, I know you talk about managing cash flow, tracking expenses, processing payroll, generating financial reports, or to sum it up, making data-driven decisions. For instance, decisions like adjusting inventory levels, analyzing customer profitability, planning for tax obligations, and so on. But all this cannot be done when you have not been able to, first of all, get those records set. And that's what I'm talking about. Those records need to be set up. Okay, you need to migrate them. You need to import them. So I will demonstrate how to import all of this. Okay, those past transactions I'll demonstrate. And trust me, this will give you a hands-on feel for managing data imports in Sage 50. Okay, so now let's now move straight up to our objective for the class. And then let's see what we will do now. Okay, so objective 1 is on configuring company settings and preference to tailor Sage 50 according to your business needs. So how do we configure? To configure means settings, to set up Sage 50 according to your requirements. So I want us to go to Sage 50, so I will put us through on how to navigate to the preference, which is settings. So let's do that now. Still using this case study company, Miramo. Okay, here we are. So on configuring company settings and preference, when you open your Sage, from the Sage 50 main menu, which you can see, go to this toolbar we call maintain. I hope you can see maintain. Okay. Click on it. When you click on the maintain option, it will bring out many other options from customers/prospect to users. Come to this option called company information. Company information. This is where you review. You do two things here. You review and you update. Okay, you review to see, to check your company's general information, and you update it if there is need to change. So click on company information. You wait. The moment you do that, you notice a new screen will appear. Company name. So let's assume if the name of this company was actually supposed to be Miramore Consulting, not Miramore. This is where you now update, because we have just reviewed it and we have found that an error. So now update. So you can provide the address, the city, the state, the country, phone number, and other informations. Form of business and other informations can be provided. The accounting method, posting method, and every other thing can be provided, as well as the payroll model. Every aspect can be provided. Okay, so I believe you can now configure these settings. Okay. All right. So now that this is perfect for you, we'll now move to the next. And don't forget that Miramore, in our case here, operates on an accrual basis. And that's why we're having accrual here. Okay. So let's proceed into importing and managing our financial data. Okay, so right here we are in objective 2, which is on importing and managing existing financial data. So we will apply practical steps and examples that simulate real-world business scenarios. Let's do this. Okay, so we are back to Sage 50, which we know is a robust accounting software that helps businesses manage financial data efficiently. And like I told us, importing company data correctly is important because it ensures that your financial records are accurate from the start. So the first thing you do when importing your data is to first of all prepare for import, what we call data preparation. So when we talk about data preparation, it is a crucial step you must take when preparing your financial data for import. So within the domain of data preparation, you first of all have to identify the data. Determine what data you need to import. And we did that when we looked into the customer list, the vendor list, that of the inventory list, financial transactions, recall. Once that has been done, I also told you that you have to now prepare your data. You prepare your data in the right format, what we call data formatting. You format the data. By formatting the data, you're preparing it in your CSV format, ensuring that it aligns with Sage 50 import requirements. So there are common fields to check now because Sage has its own requirements. Common fields like IDs, names, addresses, balances for customers and vendors, item description, cost, and quantities for inventory. All these are important. So let's now go. So what we are going to do now is to begin the import. Okay. Also ensure that during the period of preparing your data, take note of a data quality type we call accuracy. Data accuracy is important. So same way I did earlier, you have to check for errors. You have to validate that the data is accurate and complete. Incorrect data can lead to discrepancies in your financial reports. Time to time, accountants have reached out to me complaining that their accounts did not balance. Most of the times it's due to incorrect data. So please take note that incorrect data can lead to discrepancies in your financial reports. So therefore, I always advise you to use the template Sage 50 provide for data import. The reason for using it is to ensure compatibility. But let's get started. So open your Sage 50, then come to the module you want. Navigate to the module where you want to import your data. For example, maybe we want to import it into customers. We want to import it. We'll come to our customers module. We have just navigated there. Or might be we're interested in importing our data into our vendors or our inventory. So the reason why you have to come over there is so you can view. You can come down to your customers view. So you take note of if there was any available data in those models before your import. So you can see that there is no data available here. Okay. So same way you do for all others. So you know when the importation was successful or not. So the next step, come to your file bar at the top. Scroll down, you will see this option called, scroll down, you see this option called select import/export. Select import/export. Click on it. This will now open what we call the import wizard. And as a wizard, it will guide you through the process. Okay, so what are those processes? What are those steps? The first step is for you to select the data type. So you have to choose the type of data you are importing. Are you importing a data for customers? That's account receivable. Data for vendors related. Accounts payable is for that. For your payroll employees, data, this is where you come to. General ledger, this is where you come to. Inventory, this is where you come to. Jobs, which are for projects, this is where you come to. Account reconciliation, this is where you come to. Okay, time/expense, this is where you come to. So this is the first thing you have to do. You have to select the data type. So let's say I want to import customers' data. So I'll come and select account receivable. Okay, that's step one, select data type. Once I've done that, I will then come over here. Within account receivable, what type of data am I importing? I select out of the list. We have sales journal, cash receipt journal, customer list, sales order journal, contact list. So I'll choose customer list. Once I've done this customer list, I will then select between these two options of import and export. I will choose import because I'm bringing in. If I was taking out, I will use export. So once I do that, it then brings out this. Now, this is where we map what we call fields. Fields are columns. So if I should navigate directly to one of those files, you find that those columns we have that I made mention of earlier are what we call fields. So you have to map the fields. You align the columns in your file with Sage 50 fields here. For instance, if in our Excel file for customers, we are having customer name, okay? What we have to do, we have to map customer name in our file to customer name here in Sage 50. Okay, so let's do that because it's important. It's after that you now have to review the data to ensure that it is correctly mapped and formatted before you import. So let's get started with that. So let's make use of the customers data that we talked about now. So we'll go over to that. So this is our customer list. So in our customer list, we have a column for customer ID. So that means I will come to my Sage here. And on my Sage, what do? I will map it that yes, we have customer ID. So the next is what? The next will be customer name. So I'll also go over to search. Customer name is there, so I'll map it. Okay, that's to tick it that yes, it's available. We do not have prospects, so I won't tick that. Okay, so to make it faster, since you have just few columns, which are the fields here. So what we do is this: instead of wasting much of the time, we have to untick every other that we have here. This is what I mean. Import customer list. So we're going to come here, click on where you have show all. Okay, select show none. Then map it yourself. You can see it has unticked all. So now map, we have customer ID. Okay, we have customer name. We select customer name box. Location is not here, so no. But we can look for what matches with it. We can say, I think what matches with it here have to be the country, bill to country. So we can choose that. Okay, then we'll also go down, just keep scrolling. So that's how you map. You check what you have and you map just like that. So come down. Now we are looking for opening balance. Okay, so that's how we'll keep scrolling down, down, and down till we get to see if we have opening balance field here. So this customer cash account, customer since date, current balance. Okay, current balance. So come back to that, but let's keep going so you see everything. Okay, so I'm sure you've viewed every information we have here. So let's go down again. Okay, so that's how you keep going. So you get what you're looking for. And over here is our current balance. Okay, so current balance goes in line with our opening balance. So it will map it, you have to tick it. Okay, then come over here to your sheet and change this to current balance. Okay, then save it. All right, so once this have been done, we'll then go over to our search. We have mapped it. There are four fields here. And don't forget, for the fields that have to do with the location, we made use of ship to country. So bill to country rather. So we're going to change this to bill to country. All right. So now that this has been done, we'll then save. Control S, or you go back and save it. Your file, your save as, and then you save it. Remember, it's our practice materials. So save to update existing. Say save. Yes. So this same you will do for others. Okay. For your vendors list, same way I've just done. So for your vendors list practice data, this is the same thing you have to do for your inventory and others. So when you're practicing with the materials, ensure to do that. Okay. Now that you have understood this, we'll then go over to our Sage and then click on. We are done with it. So you come to options. Options. Now, if you like, you can click on your OK, but come to options. When you get to options, you will see this little box. But before you come here, ensure that you have reviewed your data. You have previewed it to ensure it is correctly mapped and formatted as we have done. So to import it now, you now come to options. You see this box, this tiny box. This is where you import your data. So to start the import process for Sage 50 to validate the data and import it into the system, you must come over to options and then click on this box. Okay. Now, before you tick on this box, there is an option that is asking you, import options. First row contains headings. If in your record, the first row in the sheet contains headings, you have to tick on it. So Sage will map it. And if for any reason there is an inaccurate setup of the files we did there, then know that it won't be accepted, and rather will be reversed back to make the correction. So come click on this arrow, come over, then we'll go look for it. Practice materials, customers list, open. So ensure it is on CSV. So you can now see it here. So to be sure of this, we'll click on our OK. Now, Sage 50 is asking us to make a backup before attempting to import. Now, normal process requires that you have to, first of all, back up the files you have. But for this, that is a new business, we don't have to back up because we don't have any record on it. So it means you're not backing up anything. So, but if it's an existing business that already have some record posted into Sage, then you have to click yes to do the backup. Okay, the backup wizard will guide you. It's not a difficult process. But here we'll say no, we don't want to do that. So click on our OK. It's still asking us, would you want to back up? We say no, we'll click on our save. Now, when we click on save, it asks us to, if we would create a template for this. So say customer list. Okay, you can say new customer list, you put a date and all of that. Then you click on save. It says, okay, that there is another name for this. So we can put S. All right, so click on OK. Now it's still asking us to do the backup. So do it, okay, to avoid interruptions. So you click on yes, and that's it. So once you have done that, you come click on this cancel. So now let's go and refresh. Come to your customers and sales, refresh. Okay, then come over to your customers and sales tags, click on view to confirm if the data have been imported. So wow. You can now see right here that our data have been imported. So you can see the customer IDs, you can see the customer name, the contact, telephone type, their balances. So you find out that every information have been imported into Sage 50. So instead of wasting time capturing one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, you don't need to do that. Sage 50 will import it immediately for you. So this is the same thing you're going to do for others, like that of inventory too. You have to come to your file, come to select import/export, go to inventory. You see inventory item list, you select it, you select import. You select your import option. The moment you do this, it brings you still here. You know what you do here? Mapping. You map the fields. Okay. So don't forget, you map the fields. You map the fields. So if I'm interested in that also, I'll then locate our inventory list, which is over here. Okay, that, oh, we're having columns like inventory ID and all of this. So what do? I will come over here and map the fields. So please practice this. Okay, practice all of these that I have said. So this is the last I will do. So click on show none. We have the inventory ID. We have the inventory name, which is the inventory description. We also have, so we are going to do now is this. We're going to change this to item ID and descriptions. Okay, description is also here. So let's format this perfectly. Okay, so show none. Item ID, item description. So we'll change this to item ID. Item description. So our name would be for it. So what you can do here is either you concatenate the both of them so they become one. Or if this is not necessary, you can take it away. This is part of the formatting process. Then rather than calling this item name, you call it item description. Okay, so also go back to our Sage. And you can see right here, we are having opening balance. So also go through this quickly. So that's quantity on hand, quantity on hand. So you map it. So we'll change this to quantity on hand. So you take away the qualitative data, which is the text. So also check for our cost price. So we'll use our last unit cost for that, last unit cost. So we're going to map this cost price, last unit cost. Selling price. Use sales price one for that. So you map sales price one. Okay, so once this have been done, for the amounts, you don't need to keep this. Otherwise, it's not going to go through. So you have to take away the Naira. All right. So once this have been done, do same for your last unit cost. So a shortcut you can use, because if you have this up to a 10,000, of course, you won't be coming to clean Naira one after the other. Okay, you won't be coming to clean units one after the other. So you use the find and replace. So from your Excel sheet, come to this group called after the styles group on your home tab. You'll see our editing. Click and select where we have find and select. You'll see replace, which you can also bring up. So replace what? Find what? We say Naira. Replace it with nothing. So you say replace all. So the moment we did that, you notice all the Naira in last unit costs have been replaced. So I've showed you different ways you can do this to save time. Use the replace, find and replace to do it. Okay, so this is now formatted. The next thing, we have also mapped it. So now save it. Then go over to our Sage. And I said, once you have done that, come to options. Ensure you review it to be sure that every fields are well stated. Now, most times to avoid errors where maybe you notice that the quantity on hand did not appear. It could be that the way the amount is structured is not acceptable. So what you have to do first is to use the template. Remember, I talked about template, that Sage provides templates for data import. And I told you to first of all use those templates to ensure compatibility. That's one of the ways we take care of data accuracy, to avoid incorrect data that can lead to discrepancies in your financial reports. So based on that, what you have to do first, instead of importing, would have been to export. Okay, so in that case, we would have first of all go and export. And this is what I mean. Okay, let's complete this before that, or let's go and look into that quickly. So right here, after selecting inventory, whenever you know what you want to import, the data you want to import, first of all, ensure compatibility. So instead of clicking import, click on export. When you do that, it will now bring you here. So what do you want to export? Come to your fields. Is it everything you want? If not everything, click on show none. Then select just those fields you want to import, export. So sales price 1 for our selling price, last unit costs. Last unit cost for cost price, and quantity on hand. Quantity on hand. So I think that's all. So we'll then come and click on OK. OK. So before that, come to your options where we have that same box. We want to export this. So we choose this. Now, before you do this, also include headings so you know the titles. Okay. So you come here, you see where we have include headings. Select it, include headings. Then you select to look for a location where you want this file to be. So let's say we want it to also go to the practice file. So also locate it. Say what's the name? We gave it item. Item. Let's say exported item template. Say open. Then we'll say okay. All right, so let's go and look for it. Our exported item template. You can come to your search to search for it, or another way you can do this is to go to that folder. So if you come to the folder where we exported it into, you see it here, exported item template. So double click to open it. Let's view the template format to ensure compatibility. So right here, you can see what it gave us. Okay. Gave us the titles, item ID, description, sales price 1, last unit cost, quantity on hand. Can you see it? So this is where we'll now decide to copy this and then go back to our template to ensure that our own inventory template is also in this format. So this will be our item ID, This will be our item description. This will be our sales price 1. This will be for our last unit cost. And this will be for our quantity on hand. Okay. Ensure you follow same pattern. So once you are done with this, the next thing you now have to do is to now go and import this into Sage, just as we did for our customers list, if you recall, just as we did. Okay, so please take note of all this. Then for the comma sign, you necessarily do not need it. You necessarily do not need all of this, so you can still take them away. So we can do same with our replace. Okay, so instead of doing this, just take notes. Just take notes. You can also decide to remove them, or you can include, you know, all of this, depending on how you want it to be, or you can take away those comma sign from the currencies. Now, this is what I mean. Can come here, say, let me remove them, or I can is 8,000, this 15,000 and all of that. So if I want to do that, I have to highlight that column and go to number group within the home tab. So where I have this, I will choose general. So I will choose general to take away the comma. I'll also come over to number group and choose general. That means no specific format, because Sage doesn't like when things are in a particular format. Then for this, I'll put it towards this align area left. Okay, so once this has been done, I will save and I'll go back to Sage and then import this. So we'll say inventory inventory list is what I want to import. So select import. Then show none on fields. Inventory ID, inventory description, selling price. That's sales price 1. Last unit cost for the cost price. Quantity on hand. And I think that's all. We have quantity on hand. We have our cost price, that's 2. Sales price 1, that's 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's complete. It's complete. So, you know what we have to do? Options. First row contains headings, tick it. Then you come over here to go and pull up the file. So we'll go straight up to where we have it, which is on practice materials. So this is it, inventory list. And we'll say open. Okay. So for the backup message, click on yes. Okay. So you have yours done over there. This is a message that says press OK to skip the record and continue. You choose, just click on OK and OK. And after that, you click on this. So this is how we take care of importing or migrating our data into Sage 50. So I want you to practice this so that you can understand it better. Okay. Now for managing your company data, which is the next in line for us to talk about. So in managing company data, we talk about post-import verification. And post-import verification talks about verifying your data. So it's a mandatory practice here that after you've imported, you have to check the imported data for accuracy. To do that, you have to navigate to the respective modules where you imported your data. Modules like your inventory. To inspect it, you come to inventory items, you click on view to inspect. Modules like vendors, modules like customers. To inspect it, you also do same. Okay, so you can come to a module like customers, you come down, click on this option that is on customers and sales tax. You also see view. And when you click on it, it's going to give you what you want. So you now have to review the data. So the process of doing all this is what we refer to as post-import verification. Once you view it, you now have to reconcile the accounts. You ensure that imported data reconciles with your manual data or wherever you imported it from. It might be bank statements or any other financial record. So you have to reconcile, you have to check to be sure that it's accurate as it is. So this is something you must do. Okay. There is even the aspect of ongoing data management where you have to update the records. And of course, you're expected to regularly update your customer records, your vendor, your inventory records to always reflect new transactions, new changes, or new corrections. So all these are important. I also made mention of backing up, which we saw. So you have to periodically back up your data to prevent loss. There are cases where you might have system failures. So how do you back up? You come to File, come down, you see this option called Backup. You click on it. So once you click on it, it brings this box. On it, you now set up what period do you want Sage to remind you when you have not backed up. Might be you ticked on it. You say, okay, if I've not backed up in 2 days, remind me. So when you're opening Sage, it will remind you that, hello, you have not backed up. So backing up is something you must do. Do you want to include the company name? Of course. Tick on it. Then you say backup. So this is how we back up. You can see the process is not difficult. You look for a word to the company file location, you click save. And that's it. Okay, you can, when you're backing up, you can change the name there to the date you backed up. So you know how you can keep track of all of this. So all these are important for you to do. So once this has been done, for you to confirm further, post, we are talking about post, import verification. We make use of reports. So you go to your reports, you generate reports you generate those reports to view. Maybe you want to view reports for your sales report and other necessary documents. You come over here to do that. And Sage also provides the analysis tools for you to analyze your data. And regularly, you have to analyze your data to make informed business decisions. And all of these are here. So I always give our students best practices on how they can take care of the pre-importation and post-importation. Okay, so for best practices, the first thing you must have at the back of your mind is data integrity. And data integrity here talks about consistency. Always maintain consistency in financial data entry to avoid errors. Accuracy. Always double check all data before importing to ensure accuracy. I hope this is good. For those of you who are company owners, there is need for efficient training and support. You must educate your staff. You must ensure that staff members are trained in using Sage 50 and understanding data management principles. It's very important. Here in Sage 50, on the help section, you'll find out that Sage 50 have provided some support. If you go through Sage support utilities and all of that, even the Sage University, Sage provides support resources, for you to also use when you encounter issues. Okay, or you can consult some experts on that. So all these are very important. And do not forget the compliance regulation is something you must ensure, because you must ensure that your data management practices comply with relevant accounting standards and regulations. So, effective data imports is what we have talked about. And if I am to say anything here, I will tell you that effective data imports and management in Sage 50 streamlines financial processes and enhances business efficiency. And of course, when we go through the first slide that we have here, we are reminded by Peter Drucker, a renowned scholar within this field of management, that what gets measured gets managed. So, by following all the steps we have looked at on importing and managing existing data, you ensure that your data is accurate, your data is complete and useful for making strategic decisions. This is where we'll round up in this lesson. The next lesson, still on Module 2, is what we'll be looking at, which is all about the chart of accounts. Do not forget that we have made available the quizzes, okay, quiz time for you. So ensure to go through the quiz and ensure to utilize the practice data to practice how to import data into Sage 50. All these are provided and designed to ensure that you master this skill. See you in the next lesson.